we're treating Apple like it's the ultimate trade war victim. It's basically traded in lockstep with Alibaba since this announcement. And as much as we know that Tim Cook stressed China and stressed emerging market weakness in essentially two earnings quarters ago, I think the bigger issues for Apple are really where I think these guys can continue their transition into a services story. So, look, if you want to look around the world, it's very clear. You can look at the headline markets in the U.S. and say, not so bad, right? But if you look at emerging markets, they've been down 10% over the last 11 days. Probably the most important stat right now for markets players is that EM is trading at an all-time low relative to the S&P. So if you divided the SPY by the EEM, we're as low as we've ever been. And this was after EM was outperforming for much of 2018, et cetera, et cetera. So it tells you the state of international investing right now.
So U.S. markets, Derek, are actually holding up relatively better than emerging markets right now. What do you think about the reaction and this decision by companies like Google to cut ties with Huawei? What's the significance of that as far as you're concerned?
Well, they have to do it now until they get a license. I would say that people treating this like the end of the U.S. relationship with Huawei are jumping the gun. The administration explicitly considered a denial order. It did not do that. You can get a license to deal with Huawei. Both sides could have cut off trade talks. They haven't done that. If we do get a successful conclusion to trade talks, and there's no guarantee of that, of course, but if we do get one, you're going to see licenses issued for Huawei business.
Do you think this move helps or hinders a successful deal on that front? In other words, does it start a chain of events where we should expect the Chinese to retaliate and this thing escalates? Or even if that happens, do you think it continues to keep the pressure on both parties to come to some kind of deal?
Well, eventually the Chinese are going to retaliate, of course. But I do think your point is well taken. We've seen the two sides try to get together without a lot of pain being felt by either one. As I say all the time, Chinese exports to the U.S. rose last year. That's a strange trade war. So maybe they need the pain. This is a forcing action that's going to cause negotiations either to move forward or break down. It's risky, but I think it actually increases the likelihood of a deal.
Okay. And Quincy, you point out that Google searches for how to pronounce Huawei have been on an increase.
Well, they have. I mean, it's gone beyond just the financial community trying to figure out how to pronounce it. So apparently it's just spread all over the world of how to pronounce this. And it's interesting to hear, foreigners tell their citizens how to pronounce it.
Well, but what it really gets at is how important this company has become to doing business around the world. Yes. And that includes if you're an investor, but it also just includes if you're trying to figure out whether or not China should be one of your customers, right?
Well, absolutely. And I mean, you could see, Europe doesn't have as many chip stocks as the U.S., but you could see the pressure on those stocks as well. The question is, how deep does this go? How long does it go on? And whether or not, you start to see exemptions, probably for small companies doing business out in the Midwest, they may get an exemption, but the president hinted at this some time ago, and this shouldn't be that much of a surprise. Huawei, we believe, has actually been, storing chips, storing what it needs.
Stockpiling.
Stockpiling, believing that
which in a way could be bad for the chip companies because they've pulled forward all of that demand now. So are you guys changing any investment strategies now because of this?
No, I mean, we've actually been using the barbell strategies, very conservative, taking on some risk in tech as the share prices come down, but focusing on quality names, dividend payers, good cash flow. That includes some tech companies, by the way, some cloud names that are very strong, not as much, not much interface with China. And I think that's the way to go until this clears up.